Serena Williams might have just been the greatest tennis player of all time. The 23-time Grand Slam champion announced that the US Open would be her last major tournament in tennis, and more recently, she just played her last game ever. Williams and her fans were in tears, and today we'll be taking a look at that and some other related news. Let's begin. First, how did Serena Williams' last match go? Serena Williams dominated in the early few matches of the US Open. She breezed her way past the first two rounds, but in the third round that took place on September 3rd, she lost to Aussie player Ajla Tomljanovic. It seemed like the 2022 US Open would be a fairy tale ending for Williams, who kept winning over and over again. There was a minor setback when Serena and her sister Venus Williams were knocked out during the first round of the doubles, but this was something that absolutely no one expected. All of the odds were on Williams' side, but in the end, Ajla ended up being the superior player, and the fairy tale tournament came to an end. It was also the longest match in Williams' entire career, lasting over 3 hours and 5 minutes. Despite the fact that the match didn't exactly go as planned, there was no one in the crowd that doubted Serena's status as the greatest of all time. There was simply no one that even came close to her at the peak of her career, and as a result, fans in the stands gave Williams a standing ovation that left her in tears. Up next, how did Serena Williams react to her loss at the US Open? There was a lot of silence on Williams' end following her defeat and the apparent end of her career. It must have been a huge shock to her as well, since this was supposed to be the fairy tale end to her career. Even though Williams was emotional after the loss, she didn't seem like she was all that upset about it. In fact, she took it pretty well. For a while, she didn't give any media interviews or anything else after the match had ended, but she did give a post-match interview. During the interview, she said that she was ready to be a mom and explore a different side of Serena. She also didn't completely shut down speculations about whether or not she would make a return, saying you never know what might happen next. However, it doesn't seem like Williams' sights are set for any kind of return right now. For now, she has a daughter to take care of and a husband to love. After a 20-year-long career, it seems like Williams has come to terms with the fact that her career might just be over. Next, Williams posts her first Instagram update after the match. After the apparent end of her career, Williams stayed away from both traditional media and social media. Even though practically every newspaper and magazine out there probably tried to get an interview with her, she decided to spend the first few days of her retirement with her family and avoid the media altogether. This also meant that she wasn't giving us daily updates on her life on Instagram or Twitter, which was a bummer for a lot of fans. But a few days later, she finally posted an update on Instagram. It was a picture of her sleeping in a bed while wearing a Moana blanket. The caption said, "How was your weekend?" followed by, "This was mine." It's clear that Williams hasn't let the loss affect her attitude toward the sport, because at the end of the day, it's just a game. She's taking it very well, and to be honest, after the past few weeks, if there's anyone that deserves to sleep on a comfy bed right now, it's Serena Williams, even though a lot of fans were disappointed since this wasn't the kind of update they were hoping for, but after such a long silence, any kind of update would be enough to satisfy them. Coming up, what's next for Serena Williams' career? Even though Williams made it known for months that the 2022 US Open would be the last tournament of her career, she still didn't mention much about what she's going to do after the tour ends. When she announced her retirement, she said that the clock was ticking and she was too busy focusing on her family to deal with tennis. Williams is also 41 years old, which is a lot older than the age of the average tennis player. She added that everyone eventually reaches a point in their lives where they have to do something different or go in a different direction, and for Williams, that point is right now. However, as you might remember, when Williams was asked by a reporter if she was ever willing to return to tennis, she said that you never know what might happen. This obviously means that Williams hasn't completely rejected the idea of returning altogether. After all, the tennis court is sort of like a home or a refuge for her. She probably feels more comfortable at the US Open venues than she does in her own home, in fact. It wouldn't be shocking at all if Williams decided to come back to tennis for a few events before she turns 50, but for the time being, it's highly unlikely that she'll be back soon. Up next, Serena Williams will have a farewell tour at Disney World. Even though Serena made it clear that her plans for the future are all about her children, there's also one more thing she has to check off her list before she can do that: Disney World. On September 10th, Serena Williams was finally asked by reporters about where she would be going next after the event was over. Williams turned her face to the camera and said, "I'm going to Disney World." This shouldn't come as a shock to anyone, since Williams has already confirmed that she will be having a Disney World farewell tour where she'll meet with fans and pay tribute to her career. After her loss, Disney played an ad during the US Open which announced the whole event, and it'll basically be a colossal celebration of the career of one of the greatest tennis players of all time. Of course, Williams isn't the first athlete to have a farewell tour at Disney World. In fact, the company has been doing farewell tours since 1987, starting with Phil Simms' retirement. But it's still amazing to see Williams honored as one of the greatest athletes in American history and as one of the few women to have the honor of a Disney World farewell tour. Now, let's take a look at some other related stories. First, Margaret Court says Serena Williams didn't like her. Margaret Court was once ranked as the #1 female tennis player on the planet, but it seems like her relationship with a fellow career Grand Slam winner isn't exactly the best. The 80-year-old tennis player turned Christian minister said that she had always admired Serena Williams as a player, but she feels like Williams doesn't exactly admire her back. During the interview, Court also compared her career more favorably to Williams. She bragged about how, despite having 2 babies at the prime of her career, she managed to win 3 out of the 4 slams. She compared this to Williams, who hasn't won a single trophy since she had her own child. Regardless, fans of tennis didn't exactly appreciate this comparison, claiming that there wasn't nearly enough competition when Court used to play. It seems like Court is just using Williams' name as a way of staying under the spotlight, and Williams is simply too unbothered to even respond. Up next, Alcaraz wins the US Open. Carlos Alcaraz was practically a nobody just 2 years ago. In fact, back in 2020, he was only 17 years old, and no one had even heard of his name. But fast forward to 2022, and Alcaraz suddenly made his way up to becoming one of the favorites to win the 2022 US Open. He beat opponent after opponent before finally making his way into the finals of the tournament. And on September 12, 2022, at just 19 years of age, he became the youngest winner of the US Open ever by defeating Casper Ruud in the finals. Alcaraz also became the first and only teenager to ever win a slam, and he's now ranked as the #1 singles player in men's tennis. And finally, Novak Djokovic's ban on entering Australia is to be lifted. Novak Djokovic has had a troubling year. He was first denied entry into the Australian Open due to his unvaccinated status, and in July, he was also denied entry into the US Open. This was a major setback since Djokovic is usually the favorite to win any tournament he's ever in. But now, it seems like he will finally be making his return to the Australian Open in 2023. The new Australian Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, is said to be a huge tennis fan, and he previously criticized the erstwhile government for how they handled Djokovic's visa. Now it seems like he's going on to reverse the ban, which means we'll finally see Djokovic compete for a slam again. That's a wrap for this video. What's your favorite moment from Williams' career? Let us know in the comments below. As always, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.